Welcome, Taurus, to your October 2023 ethics reading with me, Daniel Natal, where you'll get your Natal chart. Some of the themes this month that you're going to be going through are going to be related to family. You're going to have kind of like issues with work as well. These are going to be some of the things that you're going to be going through. You are going to have communication issues. So you're going to have to be concentrate on being more precise in your communications. Make sure that there's no misunderstandings, which might cause tensions with others. I'm a big believer in the universe kind of sending you messages, being intuitive, and so I am going to shuffle my handy dandy ethics cards to see what themes the universe might be telling you to address. And these cards have the greatest thoughts of the world's most illustrious ethicists, philosophers, and thinkers. And so I will shuffle the cards. And I will pull 3 cards. And the first card says, "The essence of immorality is to make an exception of myself." And that's by Jane Addams. The essence of immorality is to make an exception of myself. This is Kant, Immanuel Kant. He basically, the philosopher, the ethicist, he said that he had a very famous concept called the categorical imperative. And the categorical imperative, one of the aspects of it is, how do you know if something is good or bad? And he said, like, a metric you could use is if everyone did it, how would that be, right? Like, okay, I'm going to lie. Well, what happens if everybody lies? Or I'm going to kill. What happens if everybody kills, right? So you're kind of extrapolating out, what are the consequences, the ramifications of this? It is immoral to make an exception of yourself, is what she's saying, in the sense of, well, everybody else should tell the truth, but I'm gonna lie, or everyone else should not kill, but I'm gonna quietly assassinate someone, and she's right. That is the essence of immorality, making an exception of yourself. And that's a theme this month, so be careful, as you're dealing with some of the situations that you're going to be facing, kind of don't engage in hypocrisy, right? And so one of the other messages that you have is, "If you inquire of me, what is man's good? I can give you no other answer than it is a kind of moral purpose." Epictetus. "If you inquire of me, what is man's good? I can give you no other answer than that it is a kind of moral purpose." Okay, and what he's saying there is that you have to have kind of like a goal, right? Moral purpose. The Greeks had a concept of that, right? The telos. So that's their word for a goal, a purpose, right? Yeah, the telos of a thing. The telos of a medical student is to be a doctor, right? The telos of somebody studying plumbing is to be a plumber, right? That might be their telos. And in life, if you don't go toward your telos, you're going to be a miserable person. Like, say, for instance, you want to be a doctor, but you're working as a cashier behind a counter. You're going to be a thwarted person, a frustrated person. You're ignoring your purpose, right? And more importantly, you're ignoring kind of your moral purpose, right? Like, what do you do in your life that makes life worth living, fulfilling, not just for yourself, but for others? How do you interact with people? And that's one of the themes this month that you're told to kind of pay attention to get yourself back on track. Then the next one for you, the next message from the universe is, "The anthropologist describes what is. The ethicist describes what ought to be." Immanuel Kant. The anthropologist describes what is. The ethicist describes what ought to be. Now, this one is basically, kind of common sense, right? This is an ethics reading. And, so the basis of ethics is kind of having standards, archetypes for things, what ought to be. Not just what is, but what ought to be. And that's one of the things in our world is we have all these people telling us, "Oh, I tell it like it is," and that's fine. That's easy to tell it like it is. But how do you tell what something ought to be? Right? And you know what something ought to be by understanding its archetype. It's telos, right? Say, for instance, you have a car, right? And so the archetype of a car is that it is a conveyance that has 4 wheels and it can transport you places. So you know that if you have a car with 3 wheels, or a car that is broken down or has no wheels or whatever, and it's not transporting you anyplace, it's up on cinder blocks on a front yard, you know that that's a bad car. You know that the telos of a refrigerator, right, is to, keep your food cold. If the refrigerator is not keeping your food cold, everything is spoiling in the refrigerator, everything is hot inside there, then it's a bad refrigerator, right? So you have a standard by which to measure things. And so that basically, that message to you is not just what is, but concentrate on what ought to be, and you'll kind of get back on track. It's your GPS, right? Your ethical GPS for how things are. And not just in terms of physical products, but relationships, right? Like if you're in a relationship and for instance, it's a romance, right? And a romance ought to fill you with good feelings. But all of a sudden you're with the person and they're making you feel bad about yourself, and you realize, wait, this has gone off track. This isn't right. I've got to address this. And if if the person isn't willing to kind of get back on track, then maybe it's not something that's worth having, right? So don't sell yourself short. Hit your telos. Pay attention to where you are, but also where you ought to be, where the GPS is. Ethics is about ends and means, right? Not just the end, but the means to get you to that end. And that's what you're going to be concentrating on this month. And I will see you next time. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you want some extra personal ethics coaching with me for an issue that you might have, you can set up a Zoom call by pressing the button below in the description. Pick what calendar, date, and time you want, and we can hash over whatever thorny moral dilemma you're facing. Also, check out my ethics fundamentals courses. The links are below, and I will catch you next time. Get my book, Actionable Ethics, to understand the basic concepts of ethics, as well as to learn how and why moral structures permitted us to create an advanced civilization. Without those moral structures, society falls apart. You can order the ebook by going to my website, actionableethics.com, or a physical copy by going to online retailers like Amazon.com. Learn how to embed ethics into your business processes during onboarding for new employees, and discover how to generate an ethical cultural field at your business or even among your children at home. Order it now. Actionable Ethics.